So today we are back in Grandma's kitchen by popular demand because I know a lot of people have been asking for more recipe videos. I hardly know why because I'm not exactly an expert chef, but today's recipe is the perfect thing to cozy up with during the cold weather. And it does have a little bit of a whimsical twist because we are making a British classic, toad in the hole. It's not what you think. What I love about this recipe isn't just that it sounds straight out of the pages of Wind in the Willows, but it uses simple ingredients and yet it's still a very hearty dish. And it was actually my mum's idea for me to give this recipe a try today. So I have thrown open my back catalogue of vintage cookbooks, confident that I will find some sort of variation of this recipe inside because these are both British and this is a British staple, and also they are specifically designed for my new home cooker. So this first one is from 1949, and inside you can see there in the meat and poultry section, we have got sausage toad. And this is actually a rationed recipe as well, which very much shows that you can achieve this on a budget. But I just didn't like that they didn't call it toad in the hole, because that name in itself is so very whimsical and actually originated in the 18th century when diners thought that the dish with the sausages poking out of the Yorkshire pudding-like batter resembled toads poking out of their little dens. Because I have since learnt that when toads are trying to catch their prey, they wait inside little burrows with only their head peeking out. And for some reason, 18th century diners saw a resemblance between toads trying to get a meal and the meal that they were being served. Apparently the predecessor to toad in the hole was actually pigeon in the hole, which for obvious reasons I will not be attempting. But I am going to be giving a vegan alternative to this recipe in the description below, which uses no eggs for the batter and of course uses vegan sausages. But today we are keeping things classic, and so imagine my joy when I open the pages of this 1954 cookbook, again designed specifically with my cooker in mind, and I turned to the meat and poultry section and found toad in the hole. Just like the 1949 version, this is a rationed recipe, so it can be done with limited ingredients, and literally the only reason that I've picked this one instead of that one is because this one has used the correct name. And as usual, I have never made this recipe in my life, but I'm ready to give it a try because I feel that I need some comfort food in my life today. So let's give it a go. And of course I have to give my friend a little kiss for good luck. Mwah. Okay, so my aim is to make this for 3 people. So I'm kind of doubling up the ingredients that they've asked for. So instead of using 4 ounces of flour, we're using 8 ounces. Instead of half a pint of milk, we're using a pint. Instead of 1 egg, we're using 3 eggs, etc. So the first instruction is to separate the white from yolk of egg. So eggs in our case. Could have sworn I just left a cup out for myself. Did I not just leave a cup out? This will do. Okay, there we have it. Egg white, egg yolk. Sift the flour and salt into a bowl and add the yolk of egg and a little milk and then beat well. So I've already measured out my flour. I always find that incredibly satisfying. Now, it doesn't say how much salt to use, so I'm gonna go for a pinch. Always throw spilled salt over your shoulder, apparently, for good luck, or to stop bad luck, or something like that. Adding in the yolk of egg. Looks very much like porridge at the moment. Oh my life. Almost forgot to preheat the oven. That was silly. Okay, where were we? Honestly, our great grandmothers must have been absolute units. I would not like to challenge them in the gym. So the aim is for this to create a sort of batter-like consistency, like if you were making pancakes. That is what we are aiming for with this vigorous beating. And I'm just adding the milk bit by bit. Don't really know if that's recommended or makes any kind of difference, but I think it just helps you get that smooth consistency if you add it little by little. As you can see, we're getting a much more batter-like consistency than the sort of Wallace and Gromit porridge that we started with. Okay, I'm happy with that. So we're going to leave this to stand for 30 minutes. And then it says in the recipe book, just before required, whatever that means, we are going to fold in the stiffly beaten white of egg, or eggs in our case. For the vegan version of this recipe, obviously I will include that in the description, but I believe they used a milk alternative, like soy milk, and baking soda, I believe, and self-raising flour to help get that rise on your batter. But obviously we've just stuck to the traditional version of the recipe. So we're going to leave this to stand for about half an hour, and whilst we leave that to relax, we're going to sort out those egg whites. So as we wait for our batter to do its thing, I'm going to heavily grease this baking dish, because that is going to be the smoking hot dripping that we sit everything into. So I'm just going to be going quite aggressively with the butter. Because our oven is already preheating, it shouldn't take too long for this to start smoking away nicely. And I'm assuming as well this will help the batter not stick. Hopefully it can rise a little bit and look really lovely. Perfect. And now we're going to beat our egg whites, and as I am clearly a wimp and have nothing on our grandparents or great-grandparents, I'm going to be using a very modern piece of technology to help me along. Ah, convenience. Okay, just before we fold everything together, I'm just going to get our dish into the oven, just on the middle shelf for a few minutes, just to get that nice and smoking hot. I think you've got to be relatively time sensitive with your batter. I don't really know, the recipe doesn't say so, but I did watch a video where Jamie Oliver did it and he was very stressed at this exact moment. But Jamie Oliver wasn't around in the 1940s and it says nothing about that in the recipe book, so we're just gonna let that do its thing. And we're going to work efficiently, but not rush. Looking nice and whipped there. I'm very happy with that consistency, so I'm just gonna gently start folding it in, bit by bit, a nice figure of 8 motion.
To accompany my meal,
yeah.
I'm making some good old hearty mashed potatoes.
Yes, yes.
With lots of butter.
Yes. The perfect thing to accompany... And of course, the perfect companion to any comforting meal is good old-fashioned mashed potato. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna strain all of my potatoes, then we're gonna put it back into this saucepan, add a little bit of milk and a little bit of butter, and then mash to our heart's content. Okay, now I'm nice and mashed. What I like to do sometimes is take the lovely juicy goodness from the carrots and use it for the gravy. That way, you know, pretty much nothing is going to waste. So I'm just gonna sieve in all that lovely carrot juice and then use it to make a good gravy to go with this dish. We are nice and smoking hot. We're going to get our batter straight in there and then arrange our sausages in no particular order. Let's add our toads. I'm not going to lie to you, I can't quite see the vision, but not to worry. We're going to pop this straight in, and then I think we allow it to cook on gas mark 7 for 30 to 35 minutes. The recipe did say to skin the sausages and cut them in half. I've not bothered with that. I've kept them whole because hopefully I think it will look more impressive when we serve up the dish. So let's get this in the oven. Okay. gas mark 7. I'll see you in 30 to 35 minutes. Okay, it has been exactly 30 minutes and I am, I'm terrified, plumb terrified of seeing how this has turned out. Okay, let's have a look at her. Oh my goodness. Okay, come to me, my angel. Well. That is a lot more encouraging than I expected. I did not expect this to turn out good, to be honest with you, because, you know, when it comes to batter and things, it's just something that I've never really done before. And I have to say, I think this looks like the most rustic, hearty, traditional, cottagecore, whimsical, grandma could have made it recipe that I have ever attempted. This might be genuinely my new favourite. I am thrilled with how this looks. So you know on this channel that we really don't like waste, so what I'm not going to be doing is that typical influencer thing of serving myself a full meal that I have no intention of eating. Instead, I'm going to just have a little portion and then I'm going to take the rest over to Jack's and then give the rest to my mum for her tea. So I'm pretty certain that this is simply going to taste like Yorkshire puddings with sausages, but I'm still very excited to try it because yes, I've never actually had toad in the hole, and I've served my little lunch today with a cup of tea just because it adds that comforting element. So let's give it a try. I'm going to go for a nice big slice. Let's get it all on there. Oh, Nelly, that is so comforting. That is so comforting. I am so happy with the lightness of that batter. When I told my mum that there was going to be egg whites in the batter, she'd said she'd never heard of that before when making batter, but assumed that it would make it much more light and fluffier, and it really did. It's got that hint of sort of Yorkshire puddings, but not quite, and yeah, it all tastes just fantastic. Oh my goodness, I said I wanted to serve myself a small portion, but I am yamming this up. This is it's so tasty. I feel very comforted and warmed from the inside out. This would be the perfect thing to serve instead of a Sunday roast, for example. It's a really nice autumnal / wintry Sunday afternoon kind of dinner. That was so easy to do, but quite impressive because you've made your own batter. So you still feel accomplished and your guests will probably still be impressed, but it took literally no effort, hardly any ingredients, nothing was too complicated, but it looks fantastic, it tastes even better, and it's really, really comforting. Honestly, I implore you to go and give Toad in the Hole a try. Not only does it sound straight out of a storybook, but it's really incredibly satisfying. Let me know in the comments if there's a recipe that you'd like to see me try, and I shall see you in the next one. Mwah!